So in this video, I want to talk about goal setting, and more specifically, my hatred of goal setting and how this hatred of goal setting actually set me back. So I'm sure you've probably heard about the idea that you shouldn't focus on goals, and instead you should just focus on setting systems. And even though I'm a massive systems design nerd, I think this is horrendous advice. Because when you only focus on systems, for instance your habits, you have no big targets to strive for. And sure, it's good to focus on those inputs, so working out every day or writing every day. But to achieve ambitious things, so things you really need to kind of push yourself to get to and things that you really need to work hard to achieve, you need to set goals, because you don't hit these big targets, you don't hit these big goals by accident. And for me, this is an uncomfortable feeling, because if you're not striving towards something, if you're not really pushing yourself to achieve something, then you're leaving a lot on the table. You're leaving a lot of juice unsqueezed. So in an attempt to squeeze every drop of juice I possibly can out of my life, I built this simple but kind of nerdy-ish system inside of Notion. Now this system helps me to set my goals and keep me accountable. For a long time, I used to set goals and then completely forget about them. The problem was that I was never referencing those goals after I set them. Maybe I'd look at them once every month, but I was just kind of forgetting the things I actually wanted to achieve. So the idea behind this system is a simple, lightweight way to actually have those goals set and keep referencing them throughout the year. My biggest pet peeve with most Notion templates is how much they involve moving information around in Notion. And I mean, that's great if you're a Notion influencer, but for everyone else, I think the main focus should be on actually doing the work and not moving information around inside of Notion. And for me, this is the only system I've ever built where I actually find it useful to keep me accountable for my goals. And every day I come into here, I know exactly what I should be working on and the things that need to get done. So let's jump into the system and I'll break down exactly how it works. So this page is called the blueprint and it's broken down into 4 main areas. So it all starts with the yearly goals. The yearly goals are then broken down into monthly goals. So these are kind of like 4-week sprints. Then we have this week's output, so that's things I want to achieve this week. And then we have the daily outputs, that's the tasks, the most important things to get done on a specific day. Now the most useful place to start is setting yearly goals. Now you might be thinking, why do I not set 5-year goals, 10-year goals, these kind of big ambitious things to achieve over a longer period of time? And for me, I don't find these very useful because I don't know what I want to do in 5 years' time. My priorities will probably change, the things I value will also change, so I find 1-year goals to be the sweet spot. They're big enough so I actually have something to strive towards, but they're not so big that I cannot see that direction, I cannot see that far into the future. And the way I set these yearly goals is incredibly simple. I try to keep this as lightweight as possible. So the first field we have tags, and really what tags are just buckets of my life. So these are just different areas of responsibility and things that I want to work on. And then with the next field we have the name. So this is the actual goal itself. For example, inside of here, I have workout 200 times this year. Now what I try to do is keep these as input focused as possible. So for example, I could have this goal as get 6-pack abs or get to a certain percent body fat. But instead I go with workout 200 times because this is the input which would control those outputs. Now moving on to the next section of this, we have the status. So really this is in progress, missed, complete, or abandoned. Now abandoned is quite important because, for example, if I have a goal that I set at the start of the year, but I decide I no longer actually want to pursue that goal, then I'll just move it to abandoned because you don't have to hit every goal that you set. And sometimes it's not right to just continue working towards a goal, even if it doesn't align with what you want at the time. So the main part of this system here is this field here. So it's the next action. And the reason I focus on this is when I want to achieve something, it's always most important to think, okay, what's the next action for me to take to achieve this goal? At the end of every month, I'll come into here and I'll just kind of add an update on how I'm doing with these goals. So for example, in January, I would come in here, just write how this goal is going. Then I go back to the next action field and then write in here, okay, what is the next action for me to achieve this goal? For example, if my goal was to work out 200 times in the year, but I didn't have a gym membership, then the next most important action would be to get a gym membership. Now, when I'm setting these goals, I come in here and I set all the goals I can possibly think of for the year. Then I'll go through and just delete all the ones that are not that important. And typically these are the things where I want the outcome, but I don't want to actually achieve the goal. Something that's really important to distinguish is, do you want to have done something? So do you want to have the end result of it? Or do you want to do something? Because it's very easy to want to have done something. So for example, I might want to have built a $10 billion business, but I don't want to do that because I don't want to sacrifice the things that are needed to build a $10 billion business. The best framework I have for setting yearly goals is to list everything you can possibly think of out and then just start deleting the things that are not that important. You should be left with a list of goals, and this list might still be kind of long. My actual list of this is kind of a little bit long, and I know that I'm not going to hit every goal, but it just helps me to strive to achieve these different things in this year. So the next part of the system is the monthly goals. So with monthly goals, what I try to do is break down the yearly goals into 4-ish week sprints, and then just make it as actionable as possible. So inside of here, you can see I have those different buckets, those different areas of my life where I want to achieve things, and I'll break my goals down into output for that month. For example, if I want to build this YouTube channel, then my goal would be to create and publish 4 videos this month. I just started filling these out for the start of the month, and these are things to strive towards in the next 4 weeks. Jumping back into the main part of the system, we then have this week's output. Now, the way I like to think about my week is I have these things that I want to get done, this output that I want to put out into the world this week. So this week's output would be these things that I want to get done, the most important things to achieve in the next 7 days. For example, this might be client projects, maybe we have some launches coming up, maybe you want to get a couple videos recorded, whatever the most important things, whatever the most kind of important output for me to do, this is what I put in this area, and then I reference that every day of the week when I'm actually setting my most important task. Now, if we jump into kind of the main area of this template, this is the area up here where I'm spending most of my time. This is where I come every day and reference this. Everything else I'll look at and I'll just kind of keep as like a place to reference the whole page. But this is the only area that I'm actually interacting with on a daily basis. And inside of here, we have the daily journal. So with this up here, you can see we have task 1 and task 2, and these are just the most important things for me to get done that day. So I'll come in here either the night before or the first thing in the morning, and I'll set the most important task for me to do that day. And typically these will align to this week's output. So whatever the most important things for me to get done that week will be in here. My task list is going to look a lot longer than just 2 tasks, but these are the most important things to get done. And if I get those things done, then the day is a success. Now, moving along, the next part of this database is mainly just a way to track my life. So up here, you can see I have a habit tracker and then just a way to kind of track a general energy and mood. So for example, at the minute, what we have is 30 minutes of coding, writing every day, working out, going to the sauna, tracking calories, a score from 0 to 10 on my energy, general mood, and then just some notes on the day or just things that I need to kind of reference maybe that day. Now, the next part of this is I come in here and open up the actual daily journal page. Inside of here, you can see we have some journaling prompts, and what I like to do is actually only really fill out the morning pages. I have day check-in and evening reflection, but I don't often get to these. I just make sure that every morning I'll come in here and write the things I'm thinking about, the things I need to get done, kind of the most important things, just to kind of clear my brain and make sure that I'm ready to focus on the things I need to get done that day. And that's really everything there is on a daily basis. This is the only thing I really interact with, and then everything else is just things that I reference and a way to just keep this vision in my head for exactly what I want to achieve. Now, the other section that you can see along here is we have a weekly review. Now, at the end of every week, what I'll do is I'll come in here, make sure that I get everything processed inside the weekly review, and that just kind of resets me for the week and make sure that everything is in the right place. Now, I try to keep this incredibly lightweight because most of the time when I have a weekly review, I cannot be bothered to do it on a Sunday. So with this, I have burned down the email inbox, which just means get rid of everything in my email inbox. So process it and maybe set it as a task. If I want to keep that, I need to do that the next week. Clear desktop and downloads, process Apple Notes. So just if information needs to go into a certain place, maybe it's like a receipt needs to be filed or something like that. And then some questions. So what did I learn this week? What did I struggle with? What went well? What's the priority for next week? So it's kind of just a way to quickly decompress from the last week, then think of ways to improve that next week, and then just set yourself up for that next week. Finally, it's review goals and output with my partner, and then plan the week and then my output for that next week. So as I mentioned, I try to keep this as lightweight as possible because I don't really want to do a weekly review. Every time I do it, I am glad I've done it because it sets me up for the next week. I know exactly the things that I need to prioritize. I can kind of hit the ground running that next week. So this is incredibly useful. It's kind of like a necessary evil. So I just try to make it as simple as possible. And if I don't complete all of this, it doesn't matter. The main things are just making sure that maybe my email is processed and then setting up the goals for the next week. Now, the final part of the system that you've probably already seen is these little blocks over here. So what these are somewhere for me to reference what it is that I'm focused on or what it is that I'm working towards. Now, I have like a little chimp brain, which really just loves kind of shiny objects and likes to get distracted by things that are kind of new and cool, but not necessarily the things that I should be working on, not necessarily the things that I should be doing. So what I've done here is I have kind of a purpose and then I have life themes. So life themes are these things that I want to focus on in this stage of life. The way I like to think about this is life is kind of lived in seasons. Different seasons of your life, you're going to be focused on different things. So for example, this season of my life, I'm focusing on leading, educating, and taking the initiative. So like building a business, kind of just sharing things and kind of improving that. Building a wealthy life, so health, relationships, fun, money. Knowledge is the unlock, so the kind of idea that sharing information is kind of the most important thing to help people improve their lives and kind of improve your own life. And finally, there is a net worth goal, which we're working towards for the next 10 years. Then over on the other side, we have purpose. So the way I think about purpose and the way I think about what I'm working on is to kind of frame it in a way where I'm working towards achieving these things, because again, my chimp brain knows I could do anything and I know that I could kind of work on anything, and there is so many options to work on different things. So I like to have a way to frame exactly what it is I'm working on or what it is I'm working towards. So for this, you can see I have to help people live better, more fulfilling lives, build independent income, and improve the quality of their lives. So the way I'm thinking about solving those problems is the things that I'm working on. So how to build a thriving online business is the agency, so helping companies kind of build their business and increase revenue. And then we have how to live better and build independent income. So that's kind of the idea behind this YouTube channel and the website and the newsletter. So really just focus on how can we help people live more fulfilling lives and build their own independent source of income. Again, this section is going to be completely different for you because you're going to have things that you want to reference and things that you want to focus on in this season of life. So the best thing to do is go through this yourself and start figuring out, okay, what are the things I want to see every single day and how will that help me improve my future and how will that help me kind of work towards achieving something? And there you have it. There's everything with this system. As I mentioned, I'm trying to keep this as lightweight as possible. The only part I'm actually interacting with every single day is this part up here. Everything else is just a reference. Once a month, I'll come in here and set the new goals and kind of review the goals for the last month. And then I'll come in there and also see exactly how I'm doing on the yearly goals. A link to this template will be in the description of the video. And as always, thank you very much for watching.